So this is part 3 on familiar spirits and our awakening process. And in the last 2 videos, I talked about familiar spirits and what they are, how we were raised, those things that were always familiar to us, and our awakening process. When we awaken, we tend to want to go back to what was familiar and comfortable. And the key in all of it is to truly heal our nervous system. In the first video, I had talked about how as we elevate, basically align our nervous system, we begin to then attract more healed energy. Those who are on the same path of that healing and keeping their nervous system calm, so that we truly can be the calm, we can flow like the waves of the ocean, like we're supposed to. And when a huge, wave tries to plummet us, we're able to still remain calm because our nervous system is not stuck in fight or flight. So we are aligned inwardly, and it reflects outwardly. But with that being said, as I talked about in the first video, you begin to attract then, you go from the familiar spirits of where you were to then resonate to the frequency where you are now in those familiar spirits. So we're all on this level of ascension, and we're growing and we're progressing. But that does not mean, even though you are healing, you are elevating your frequency, you are being unveiled, you're remembering your true authentic self, that does not mean that you are not going to experience hurts and pains from those who are at the level of frequency that you are. So let me explain. So when you get to a point where you're evolving, just like I talked about in school, like you had friends that you had a certain quality about you, and so you were attracted to those kind of people, and now you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. Okay, so like-minded attracts like-minded. But that doesn't mean that there is not dark and light in everything. It does not mean that we are not here to learn and grow. We are always going to have growth. Our job is to learn to alchemize the darkness into light. Okay. So even though you are attracting spirits that are familiar now to you and they're resonating with you internally, does not mean that each and every person still does not, that they don't have healing to do. Every single person, as long as we are here, we are always going to have something to work on, because this is a school of learning. We're going to have things that we need to heal from, generational curses that need to be ridded from us. And so there's a false illusion that as you ascend and go through your awakening, and you begin to strip these false illusions off of you, and you begin to heal, that the people that are on your level, they wouldn't hurt you. Or I don't mean level as in like someone's like better than another person. I don't mean that at all. But they are understanding the level of ascension that you're at. Okay. That does not mean that person themselves does still not have unhealed wounds within them and parts of their nervous system that is still out of alignment, and that just because they claim to be your friend does not mean that they are going to not bring their chaos or their unhealed trauma to you, or vice versa, right? And so that is where love and compassion comes into our awakening as well, is understanding that we are going to still go through trials of testing, because it's how we learn. And as it's a school of learning, you have to be tested in things. And so seeing that you are still going to have these experiences that are those big waves that come down and crash you and try to absolutely crash you. And because each of and every person upon this earth is flawed, right? We are all here. We're learning, we're growing, we're healing. There is somebody that has to play that role of growth in your life. And so if you can see it as that, instead of this horrible experience that you had to go through, and you can see the growth that you gained and then release that person and thank their spirit with love. Thank you for bringing that growth into my life. Now I release this with love and let go. Then you will not get stuck in the trauma and the chaos of what took place. And that's hard. And so I'm trying to give counsel to help people get through this a lot faster. I've had to learn all this the hard way. And so I'm a person that I have to go through the experience, right? I have to learn it. I'm a visual person, so I have to physically see it unfold. So these are just things that I personally walked through that may help you in your journey of ascension, of healing, of growth, of forgiveness, of letting go, and seeing that forgiveness is truly for this life. It is truly for this life. And none of us is perfect. The only thing we were ever commanded to be perfected in was love. And so that false illusion of having to be perfect, and just because people are evolving means they're going to be perfect, that is a false illusion. It is not true. And we all have generational curses, traumas, damage from our childhood. In one way or another, our nervous systems, no matter if you were raised in the calmest environment, in one area or another, have been stuck in fight or flight. And so those experiences became familiar spirits to us, and so it resonates with us, and that's what needs to be aligned so that we no longer resonate with the chaos. So we can literally be here and seeing the beauty in the school of learning and why we're here, and evolving and releasing and letting go and taking the growth from the lessons, seeing them for what they are, and then releasing with love all that were involved, because if people wouldn't have been involved, you wouldn't have been able to learn it. So seeing it through heaven's eyes is really key in our growth. So maybe you understand familiar spirits more, and that you're always going to have, whether it was, that you're breaking it and now you're coming into familiar spirits that are like-minded and they're more in harmony with you, but they still have healing to do. And with that is going to come their own experiences of healing, and how it surfaces, how they deal with it, how they transition through it. And so that love and grace, but seeing that familiar spirits, we're always around familiar spirits, depending on the level of awareness, awakening that we have allowed Yahshua to take us through, that we've allowed to be wakened up to. And like I said, the faster we calm our nervous system, the faster we're able to shift through these things and not get stuck in those big, massive tidal waves that we're not meant to be stuck in. We're meant to grow and then soar some more. Like the wings of an eagle, just soar. You're able to soar. You're able to see the experience for what it was. So may this help us more fully understand, the familiar spirits and our awakening process and calming your nervous system. Again, this is just more insight on how it all goes together. It all ties together as one. Have a glorious day.